Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this weekly Sadaqayon program organized by Quantum Meditation Society London. This week, like every week, we will be talking about something that is very relevant to all of us, very relevant to the human condition, and that is resistance. Um, and then, of course, at the end of our discussion, we will participate in a meditation together. So today, I want to start out with a story. This is a story from the Buddha's life. By that time, the Buddha had attained enlightenment, and he is known to be a great teacher. So people would come to him to seek guidance, to seek advice. So one day, a farmer came to him and told him that, Buddha, I have so many problems. Can you please help me solve my problems? And then he started talking about all the problems he had. He was a farmer, so of course his farming, his harvesting was very important to him. He said, sometimes it just rains too much and that destroys my crops. Other times it just rains too little the and there isn't enough humidity for my crops to grow. So I can't, even though I like farming, I can't farm the way I want to farm. And then he went on to his relationships. He said, I am married, I have a wife, and she's not bad, but she fights with me sometimes. And sometimes she just nags me so much that I really, really don't like it. And then he went on to his son. He said, I have one son and he's okay, but he just sometimes he's just misbehaves with me and he's not very respectful and not very obedient. And what makes it worse is that my wife sometimes sides with him. She often takes his side, and that makes me so angry. And then of course there are all the neighbors, and they gossip about me, and then they spread rumors about me. And some of them have borrowed money from me and haven't repaid me yet, and I don't know what to do to get the my money back. But also I have borrowed money from some people, some lenders, and I don't have enough money to pay them back, and I'm under so much stress because I don't know how to get the money I need to pay them back. So he went on and on in this way, talking about all his problems. And the Buddha, as is the nature of enlightened people, listened to him with full attention. And then after he had spilled out all his frustration, the Buddha said, I am sorry, I can't help you. And of course, this made this man even more frustrated. He said, what do you mean you can't help me? You are known to be this great teacher who has the solution to all problems, but you can't even help with this ordinary problems that I have. So the Buddha said, you have problems. Everyone has problems. In fact, everyone has exactly 83 problems. And there is nothing we can do to completely avoid them, to be completely problem free. We can work hard on one problem, we can focus and work hard on one problem, and maybe we'll be able to solve it. We are able to solve it, but then in its place, another problem arises. And then by the time we've worked hard to solve that problem, another problem arises. And this is, of course, problems that are under our control, but there are so many things that we can't even do anything about. What about death? What about people dying? What about uh, natural disasters, calamities? I mean, keeping climate change aside here. What about we can't control other people's behavior? We can't control what they think about us, what they say about us. So there will always be so many things that we can't control, so many problems that we can't solve. So you will never be able to solve your 83 problems. But there is a problem that is problem number 84. And if you are able to solve problem number 84, then it is as if those 83 problems don't exist. So, and then it's like you have solved those 83 problems. So then the man got excited and he asked, okay, so tell me, what is problem number 84? How can I solve it? So the Buddha said that problem number 84, your problem number 84, and most people's problem number 84 is that we don't want to have any problems at all. It is, we expect a problem-free life. And that is the root cause of our misery. So if you give up your attachment to a problem-free life, if you stop expecting a problem-free life, you will be able to deal with your problems as they come, the ones that are under your control, and be able to accept the ones that are not under your control. But you won't suffer as much because of your problems. So this story carries like a profound wisdom, like many of the stories from the Buddha's life. We, as human beings, are sentient beings. We, whatever we do, we cannot escape the cycle of birth and death and vulnerability to our environment, aging, uh, losing our vigor. We can do a lot to slow aging down or maybe reverse aging, but we cannot completely escape it. We cannot escape death, right? But even though our fundamental state is a vulnerable state, we go on in life expecting things to be perfect, expecting things to be a certain way, which it never is. And because of that, we live our life in a lot of resistance. When a problem arises, instead of accepting that it has arose and then has arisen, tell me what's the right form of the verb here. We spend a lot of our energy resisting what has already happened. And that actually takes us away from moving on to solutions, but not only from moving to solutions, because we spend so much of our life being in resistance, we actually miss out on life because we are always thinking that there will be a time in the future where things will be okay, where things will be perfect, or in our minds, things will be okay. And then I will be happy. That state when things are okay, that will bring me lasting happiness. Now, this feeling that we have, all human beings normally have this, that we think that the future is more important than the present. And sometime in the future, I will arrive to a state where things are okay. And then finally, I'll be happy. Then finally, I can relax in the present. Then finally, I can enjoy everything that I have, is called arrival fallacy by psychologists, and is a, as the name implies, found to be a fallacy, as in when you see what the state of mind that people are in, when you investigate into the state of mind people are in, you find that yes, of course, your well-being increases, decreases, but for the majority of people who are living like that, who are not being mindful about enjoying the present, they never arrive at some state where the external things suddenly change, or change enough suddenly or gradually to make them feel like, okay, now I can relax into this state and things are okay and I can just enjoy my reality. It doesn't happen. Whatever the state is, people find something else to be discontent in that state, even if they have attained everything they thought they needed to be okay. They still in that state feel discontent, and then they're in that state, they're still thinking about some other state in the future where something else will happen, and then they will finally relax into reality. So they're still living in discontentment and resistance. So, so in order to have happiness, in order to really enjoy this life that we have, we need more acceptance. We need more acceptance of where we are right now. And acceptance, like what we talked about last, like forgiveness, is a misunderstood term. If I tell you, or someone tells me that, oh, you need more acceptance in your life, then immediately they all will meet with resistance. Like our inner self often just rises in resistance to that, because we mistake, we confuse acceptance with passivity. We think being accepting means never to strive for something, never to try to change your situation or the situation of the people around you, to think that all the bad things that happen in the world are okay, to think that to basically just be passive and don't do anything on your own except for accepting the things that are being thrown at you. And that is not what we mean when we say acceptance in this spiritual context. Again, as we said about forgiveness last week, the acceptance simply means accepting and if you can, appreciating what has already happened, your current circumstances. And when you do that, when you accept, then you actually are more likely to bring about positive change in yourself and your external circumstances. So, think about being in a job. When you are, you may not like your current job, right? And you want to have a new job. You want to get a new job. Most of us believe that these two things go together. Like, I hate my current job, and I I want a new job. And because in order to get a new job, of course, I have to be discontent with my current job. And of course, if I only want that because I dislike it, and the more I dislike this, the more I will be determined to get a new job, and so the more likely I am to get the new job. That's the kind of thinking we often fall into. But what, what we know about how our subconscious mind and how our vibrations work and how the universe works and how we can attract the things we want in our life actually shows that we can desire things. The best way to get what we desire is to focus on our desire for that thing while being as accepting and appreciative of what we currently have. Why is that? You might remember, universe gives you what you already have, and the universe gives you your external world is a reflection of the internal world, your thoughts and your feelings. So if the dominant feeling within you is one of lack of appreciation, lack of gratitude, hating your current circumstances, then you will attract more and more situations that you hate. Even if you get that job that seems perfect on the outside, once you're in there, you will find that you are repeating your current patterns. You are finding something to hate about that job too. But if while desiring a job that feels amazing and inspiring and fulfilling and enjoyable, you can also get yourself to a state where you're accepting and appreciative of the good things in your current job. Then the dominant feeling inside you becomes one of acceptance, one of appreciation, and then it is easier for you to attract things that you can accept. You will accept more and appreciate more. So I hope this makes sense, because this is a mistake we often make when we are trying to do what in quantum call monchobi, what is generally in the Western world we known as manifesting, right? When you're trying to manifest, when you're trying to do monchobi, oftentimes we may push what we want away with because of all the dissatisfaction we have with our current reality. So it's very, very important to focus on what you want while be accepting of what you have right now. In fact, like Socrates that long ago actually said this. I mean, this quote is attributed to Socrates, and he said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new, right? So this is something that we don't act that way, right? Because we are thinking like protesting against something, meaning I want something. But the more you focus, but vibrationally, the more you focus on what you want, the more you talk about what you want, the more likely you are to attract it. I hope that's clear. Now, another thing I want to mention about this lack of acceptance of our current reality, and what I talked about just a while ago, arrival fallacy. The root cause of that is our biological selves, our ego's inherent incompleteness. Okay. So, what spiritual teachers tell us is that we the our egos, our egoic identity, which is often dominant in how we're thinking and acting, which in quantum we refer to that as our biological self, the sense of self that has sense of separate self that has arisen out of our separate body, right? Um, that self is structurally incomplete. It inherently carries an incompleteness within it. It is, and because of that, we think that, oh, at some other, because of that, we seek wholeness. Number one, we seek wholeness, no matter how great our circumstances are at a certain point. It is very difficult for us to feel completely at peace, completely whole, unless, of course, we have worked on that. Uh, and because it's very difficult for us to completely feel completely whole, we automatically think, oh, I must be feeling this way because this is wrong, or that is wrong, or this is missing, or that is missing. And then there must be some time in the future where we can reach, then I will be happy. But it is actually not some lack in our external circumstance that is making me feel that way. It is my own inherent incompleteness that is making me feel that way. And spiritual teachers have talked about this for a long time. Rumi, who many of us love, um, explained this in a beautiful way. So um, um, in many parts of the world, there is this instrument called the flute, right? So it's in the part of the world I come from, the flutes are made from bamboos, and taking a piece of bamboo, and then you make a flute out of it. And its sound is thought of to be quite melancholy. And Rumi said, why does the flute cry? Why is it sound so melancholy? And he said, because it's been separated from the bamboo, it was part of this big whole, and now it's been taken. And because of that separation, it cries, it sounds so sad. And it was very interesting that I was a few days ago, I was hearing one of like our very modern um, self-help experts, Mel Robbins, say the same thing. And it was very interesting because I have always thought of her as being somebody who is very um, not necessarily looking that much into the spiritual wisdom for the solution to problems. She's more just into current scientific inquiry. But she was in an interview with Oprah, she was saying the same thing. She was saying, like anxiety, all anxiety is really separation anxiety. And then she was saying that we're anxious because when we're anxious, we go to our head, and then we're separated from ourselves, we're separated from our body, and we're separated from the source. So she was saying the same thing. So it is the ego separation from the source that makes us discontent, that makes us look for uh, problems as explanations to that discontent. And of course, because the ego is always threatened, always afraid of being annihilated, being perished, of perishing, that's also it's always scanning for danger. So the combination of those two makes us create problems when even there really isn't a problem. So that is also something that when we're thinking about problems, we need to think about that. Is there really a problem, or is it something mind made? So the number one thing we need to do when we have problems is move to acceptance as fast as we can, rather than spending energy on resisting it, because what we resist persists, right? So, number two is we have to really look at the situation and be figure out, is it really something that needs to be solved, or is it completely mind made? Is it maybe my husband is frowning and I think now there is a big problem in my marriage, that maybe he just has a headache, but my mind has now gone off and said, like, oh, this guy, he must be thinking this about me. And oh, it is so, I'm so unlucky. Other husbands must be so nice, and only my husband is like this. So now see how my mind has created problem out of nowhere. And these things happen all the time. My guru says like 70% of problems, any type of problems, are really mind made. It's not, nothing's really happening in reality. I am creating the problem by my interpretation and reaction to something that is there in my external circumstances. So it is very, very important to realize that. And it's also important to realize what we can control and what we can't. Uh, what we can't. So if there was this Chinese story where a woman who had two daughters went to this Zen master and told him, like, I have two daughters. The husband of one is an umbrella seller, and the husband of the other is a noodle maker. And whenever it rains, I worry about my daughter, whose husband is a noodle maker, because in order to make noodles, you have to leave them out for a long period of time so that they can dry. And I always feel like, oh my God, her husband's noodles are going to be destroyed. Where is the income going to come from then? And then when it is dry, I always worry about my daughter, whose husband is the umbrella maker, because I think, oh, if it is so dry, who is going to buy umbrellas? The demand for umbrellas will go down, and then how will she make a living? So the Zen master said, like, from now on, when it's raining, you think of your daughter, whose husband is the umbrella maker, and think of how nice it would be as demands will go up and she will become prosperous. When it is dry, when it is sunny, think of your daughter whose husband is a noodle maker, and how all the noodles will dry nicely and he'll be able to sell them and they will become prosperous. So it's a very simple story, but our minds work like that. Again, because of that inherent discontentment, because of that scanning for problems all the time, we create problems. So things like the weather, you can't do anything about day-to-day weather. So things like that, let's not spend energy resisting something like that. Let's make the best of it. Because again, arrival fallacy is a fallacy. No day will come when where something will be perfect. Along with striving towards um, goals and creating a better world for everybody, we also need to cultivate our inner self so that we can take more of the present. And the last point is always realize that you may not know what is the best for you. You know, believe you cannot really, it's hard to go through the world, go through life without believing that the universe is on your side, the universe has your back, because you're not more powerful than the universe. And then if you think that the universe is against you, your whole life will be hell. It's much better when something happens to, as I mentioned another day, this is one of my favorite quotes, is that look at life not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be solved. So when something happens, instead of thinking of it as a problem to be solved, think of what is the lesson here? Where is the opportunity here? Think of it like a mystery. Like, what has this come to bring me? This thing that has come, why has it come why has it come? What is it, what opportunity has it brought me? What lessons had it brought me? Why is it here? And if you look at like that, if you and you can absolutely train yourself to look at life that, then you will see that life becomes, problems become enjoyable. And my Guruji says that like I I relish problems. They're like challenges. I'm like, something will come and has come. Now I can use this brain that God has given me to solve it. And it's absolutely possible to get to that state for all of us if we are aware and if we start that journey. And of course, the more accepting we are, the more we will connect, more we will be free to connect to that part of ourselves that is beyond these ups and downs of this biological self, beyond dependent on beyond any dependence on the up and down of our external world. And then we can hopefully, inshallah, in our life reach a state where, which the spiritual seekers would call the state of bliss. In Bengali we call shadanando, like a kind of joy that can never be taken away from you. And I want to end this talk with an incident from the life of Abdul Qadir Jilani, Hazrat Abdul Qadir Jilani, who was one of the he was the sort of the founder of one of the four major religious and spiritual tradition within Islam. So what in his what he was, along with, of course, being this person of profound knowledge and wisdom, profound religious and spiritual knowledge and wisdom, he was also a person who was a merchant. He had ships, and he exported and imported goods in his ship. So one day he was sitting with his disciples, and somebody came in and said, like, "Oh, Huzur, I just heard that your ship that just sailed a few days ago, unfortunately, has been wrecked. It's sunk. There was a storm and it's sunk." So his disciples saw him close his eyes and then focus on, seem to go inward, stay quiet for a little bit, and then say, Alhamdulillah, which is praise be to God. And then he went on with what he was doing with his disciples. And then a little while later, that same person came in again and said, "Oh, Huzur, Huzur, good news. What turns out that I got the wrong information. Your ship hadn't sunk. It is fine. It's confirmed. So again, the Hazrat Abdul Qadir Jilani, rahmatullahi alayhi, he closed his eyes. He focused on seemed to focus inward, and then after a while said, "Alhamdulillah," and went on with what he was doing. So then one of his disciples asked him, like, why, you, even when you heard the first news, you said Alhamdulillah. When you heard the second news, which is a complete opposite of what you heard, you said Alhamdulillah. Why? So he said, my Alhamdulillah didn't have anything to do with what was happening there. After I heard that first news, I focused on my qalb, my heart, and to see if it had become sad because of that. And to my joy, I realized that no, it was still full of joy. And I said, okay, Alhamdulillah, because of that, and because I was unaffected by that. And then when the second news came again, I checked in to see if I had become excited because of that news. And again, I said, like, oh, my heart was unaffected and it was full of joy. And then I again said Alhamdulillah. So that is a state where people can reach, where you are in joy. Your susceptibility to external circumstances has become very, 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 very uh, weak. And we won't become like that in one day, but we can all start with more acceptance in our life, give up resisting the things that we can't control, look at to see if we are making up the problems with our mind, focus on the things we desire rather than the things we don't want in our lives, and know that certain things in life will always be there. So appreciate what we have right now. So that is our talk for today. Hope it gave you some insights. As always, I will go to the meditation now. Those of you who are watching this on YouTube, you will find a link to the meditation in the description. Let's do the happiness meditation again today. It's a good meditation that will help us balance between appreciating what we have now and striving for what we want in the future, and help us hopefully realize that there is no contradiction between the two.
Welcome to Peace and Happiness, dear friend. You can hear me well. You have enjoyed a wonderful time. I will now count from 0 to 7 and you will be wide awake. You will feel happy and cheerful, both physically and mentally. Take a long breath. 0, 1. Take another long breath. 2, 3. Take another long breath. 4, 5. Repeat silently with me. After I finish counting 7, I will open my eyes and be wide awake. I will feel refreshed energetic and elated. Take a long breath. 6, 7. Open your eyes. Gently move your head and shoulders. Stretch your legs. Move your arms and hands. Say loudly and joyfully, feeling better,
Better,
feeling better
better,
and
and better.
better.
Okay, so that was our meditation for today. I hope you enjoyed today's program. I will see you again next week. Until then, think well, speak well, act well, and be well.